Okay, stop what you are doing for a second and look at your calendar.
Right now.
I'm serious. If you're listening to this on release day, tomorrow is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026.
And if you just glance at it, it looks like a completely standard Tuesday. Maybe you've got a quarterly review meeting. Maybe you're doing laundry.
Just trying to get through the week.
Exactly.
To the untrained eye, it's just a day. But we have been digging through a stack of research today, specifically a really intense forecast from Tarot by High C.
And that fascinating companion piece, the StoryScope.
Right. And according to these sources, tomorrow is, well, it's a lot more than just a Tuesday.
It certainly is. If you follow astrological currents, or even if you just pay attention to the general, the vibe of society, tomorrow marks a massive energetic pivot point.
A pivot.
Yeah, it's the beginning of a specific window of time that stays open all the way until April 25th.
The headline here is Uranus direct in Taurus. Now, I know, if you aren't deep into astrology, that sounds like a bunch of jargon, but the way the source describes it, it honestly gave me goosebumps. It frames this period as the moment where stalled change suddenly unsticks.
That is the key phrase, stalled change.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how many things in our lives feel like they've been in a holding pattern for, the last 6 months?
Oh, yeah.
The source suggests that starting tomorrow, that holding pattern breaks.
Yeah.
But here's the thing we really need to emphasize, and it's the main reason we're doing this deep dive today.
What's that?
When things finally get unstuck after being under so much pressure, it rarely feels like a relief.
Not at first.
Not at first, no.
Yeah.
It usually feels more like an explosion.
Right. The source material suggests that we are entering a time where things might feel like they are breaking. But, and this is the promise of this deep dive, if you stick with us, they aren't actually breaking.
They're upgrading.
They're upgrading.
Precisely. That is the crucial distinction. So we're going to spend this time explaining why that distinction matters, how to tell the difference between a total breakdown and a necessary breakthrough.
And how to navigate the next few months without completely losing your cool.
Or, to use the terminology from our source, how to upgrade instead of detonating.
That's the mission.
That is the mission. Upgrade instead of detonating.
I love that. So let's unpack the mechanics first. We've got this event, Uranus turning direct in Taurus. I think most people have heard of Mercury retrograde, right?
Sure, yeah. Your Wi-Fi breaks, you accidentally text your ex, that whole thing.
Exactly. But what does it mean when a planet like Uranus goes direct?
To understand direct, you first have to, understand where we've been.
The context, right?
Since last September, Uranus has been retrograde. Now, in astrological theory, Uranus is the awakener. It's the planet of revolution, shock, sudden change. The future.
The lightning bolt.
It's the lightning bolt, the ultimate disruptor. But when a planet is retrograde, that energy gets turned inward. It becomes reflective.
Okay.
So for the last 5 or 6 months, that revolutionary pressure hasn't really been affecting the world around you so much as it's been affecting the world inside of you.
It's a pressure cooker.
Exactly. It's been incubating. It's that quiet, nagging voice in the back of your head that's been saying, I can't do this anymore, or this situation doesn't fit me.
But you haven't done anything about it.
Not yet. You've just been simmering in it.
The Sunday scaries, but for your entire existence.
In a way, yes. But here's the shift. Tomorrow, February 3rd, the planet stations direct. That means the energy flips from internal to external.
The incubation period is over.
It is. The lid comes off the pressure cooker.
And the steam has to go somewhere.
It has to. The source puts it perfectly. The tension shifts from internal unrest to visible movement.
There is a specific quote here that I circled because it felt a little personal.
Oh, yeah.
It says, something that felt tolerable suddenly feels impossible to ignore.
That line is the crux of this entire transit.
It really is.
Think about a leaky faucet in your kitchen. You know it's leaking. You've heard it dripping for months. You've managed to tune it out. You've tolerated it.
Because you're busy.
You're busy. But under this Uranus direct energy, you walk into the kitchen one morning, you hear one single drip, and suddenly you are filled with this blinding urge to rip the entire sink out of the wall.
So the tolerance buffer just evaporates.
Gone. Completely gone. And because this is happening in the sign of Taurus, that intolerance is going to show up in very specific, very material areas of life.
So not just existential dread.
No. Taurus rules the material world. Our money, our possessions, our bodies, our sense of security.
So we're talking about looking at your bank statement or your messy closet and just having a meltdown.
Or your paycheck.
Yeah.
The source specifically mentions things like money habits, clutter, physical burnout, and this one is huge, undercharging for our work.
And staying quiet to keep the peace.
That one right there.
Oh, wow. I feel like for so many of us, that's just the default operating system of adulthood.
It is. We tolerate mild unhappiness just to keep things stable. And that is exactly what this transit challenge is. It attacks the very concept of tolerance.
It's not a virtue anymore.
Not right now, no. Uranus Direct says, the inner discomfort is moving into real-world choices. You can no longer just tolerate it. You have to make a material change.
But this brings us back to that danger zone we mentioned at the top, detonation.
Right.
Because if I suddenly decide I can't tolerate my job or my salary, my instinct, especially with this lightning bolt energy, is to march into my boss's office, flip the desk, and quit.
Which would be detonating.
Yeah.
And while that might feel good for about 5 seconds, it's ultimately chaos. The source is very clear. The goal is to upgrade instead of detonating.
Okay, so what does the upgrade version look like? If I'm not flipping the desk, what am I doing?
The upgrade is about flexibility, not destruction. The source advises focusing on making material, major changes to your stability and security, but doing it strategically.
Strategically.
It says anything seeming unstable is exactly where growth requires flexibility. So instead of rage quitting, maybe the upgrade is finally initiating the hard conversation about a raise.
Or restructuring your debt.
Exactly. Or if we're talking about the clutter theme, it's not about burning your house down. It's about finally clearing out the basement so you have space to breathe. It's constructive, not destructive.
But it's still radical.
Oh, it's very radical.
Yeah.
Because you're changing the foundation. And we have to keep the timeline in mind here. This upgrade window is from February 3rd to April 25th.
Okay.
And the source notes that once this window closes, Uranus shifts into Gemini for a 7-year stint.
Which changes the vibe completely.
Completely. Gemini is air, communication, intellect. So think of these next few months as the physical preparation for a much larger intellectual shift later.
Get your house in order, literally and metaphorically.
So that you're ready for the conversation to change in April.
Okay, so we're cleaning house, we're fixing the leaks, we're asking for the raise, but there is a plot twist.
There is.
In this source material that we absolutely have to talk about, because apparently Uranus isn't just hanging out in Taurus alone.
It's got a companion. And this is where the story gets really fascinating and a little intense.
Yeah.
Uranus is currently aligned or conjoined with a fixed star called Algol.
Which has a charming nickname, doesn't it?
The demon star.
The demon star. I mean, upgrade instead of detonating sounds like great self-help advice, but the demon star sounds like a horror movie title.
It certainly has a reputation.
Yeah.
Ancient astrologers looked at Algol and they associated it with, extreme events, destruction, mob violence,
Okay.
and rather vividly, decapitations.
Decapitations, like literally losing your head.
Historically, in the texts, yes. But in a modern astrological context, and specifically in this reading, we are talking about figuratively losing one's head.
Okay, so panic, irrationality, that kind of thing.
It can be. But we have to dig a little deeper into the archetype here. Algol is associated with the myth of Medusa.
Ah.
And in pop culture, Medusa is a monster. But in the older, more nuanced myths, she's a figure of protective rage. She represents feminine power that has been violated or suppressed, rising up to defend itself.
So it's not just chaos for the sake of chaos.
No.
It's the chaos of something that has been repressed finally exploding to the surface.
Exactly. It is the specific type of rage that comes when you realize you've been keeping the peace at your own expense for way too long.
Right.
The source notes that this Algol influence means we might see people behave in ways that are totally out of character.
Breaking character. I like that.
You might see someone who is usually the most composed person in the office suddenly just snap. Or you might find yourself unable to hold back an emotion you've successfully buried for years.
Which goes right back to that tolerable becomes impossible to ignore idea. If you've been suppressing your need for change, Algol is the match that lights the fuse.
And here is a crucial piece of context the source provides, which I found really helpful for grounding this. The last time Algol was this strongly activated was mid-July 2024.
Okay, mid-July 2024.
That was when Mars conjoined Uranus on the same point. So the source is asking us to think back to that summer.
What were the themes? Did something shift?
Right. Did a conflict blow up?
Yeah.
Did you feel a sudden urge to break free from a contract or a relationship? This current moment, starting tomorrow, is likely a continuation or a resolution of that story.
That's really helpful. It makes it feel less random.
Exactly.
It's not just everyone is crazy today, it's part of a cycle.
Precisely. And understanding that it's a cycle helps with the losing your head part.
Yeah.
If you know why you're feeling this intensity, you're less likely to just panic and detonate.
Now, speaking of cycles and stories, I want to switch gears a bit. One of the things I love about this Tarot by High Seas source is they provide this thing called a StoryScope.
Yes, the narrative illustration, I love these.
It's basically a short fiction piece that simulates what this energy looks like in a reality that's just, slightly heightened from our own.
And it helps so much.
It really does. Reading this story helped me understand the Uranus direct concept way better than the technical explanation.
Narrative is often the best way to understand abstract energy. It puts flesh on the bones of the theory.
So let's set the scene for the listener. The story is titled The Upgrade Cycle, and it starts with a sound.
A tremor in the walls.
Right. It says, the building still stood, the city still breathed, but everything that had once felt solid began to hum.
As if the structures of daily life had developed a low, impatient voice. That image. That is the perfect description of Uranus and Taurus.
It's so good.
Taurus is the earth, the walls, the structure. Uranus is the vibration shaking it apart.
And in the story, this vibration causes a phenomenon called the shedding.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't getting sick exactly, but they're having this physical, neurological response where layers are just falling off them.
Layers of sensory perception detaching, the story says. It describes old habits feeling foreign, old identities feeling heavy.
Like muscle memory is failing.
Yes.
We meet two characters, Nia and her sister Lael. Nia is basically the poster child for the tolerating discomfort problem we talked about.
Okay.
She's exhausted, she's underpaid, she works at a place called the Civic Systems Lab, and her apartment is full of stuff she doesn't use.
The clutter theme again.
Yeah, and there's this line about her clutter that really stuck with me. She couldn't throw things away because they represented versions of herself she was afraid to outgrow.
Wow. That hits a nerve, doesn't it?
Right.
We often think clutter is just laziness. But usually it's an identity crisis. We hold on to objects, the guitar we never played, the clothes that don't fit, because we're holding on to a past self that felt safer.
So Nia is feeling this tremor. She thinks she's sick. She tells her sister, something's wrong with my body. And Lael, who seems to be the wise, expert speaker type in this story,
I like her already.
as Lael says, you're not sick, you're just listening.
Listening to the part of you that's been asking for change since last year. That connects directly back to that retrograde period we discussed.
The body knows.
The body knows before the mind does. Nia thought she was ill, but she was actually just incompatible with her current life.
And this isn't just happening to Nia. The story describes this societal shift where people are just quitting mid-shift.
Well,
Banks are rewriting policies overnight because the old ones don't make sense anymore. And the story divides people into two camps, those who resist the shedding and those who accept it.
and the resistors.
The resistors are the ones who lose their heads.
There's the Algol reference.
Exactly. The story says they clung to outdated roles, outdated currencies. Some even became violent, as if the collapse of their internal structures demanded an external target.
That is profound. If you can't handle your internal structure collapsing, you look for something outside of you to attack.
It's projection, the detonation.
Yes, but then you have the other group,
Mm-hmm.
the people who stopped saying, I have to, and started saying, I choose to.
That shift from obligation to choice seems to be the turning point. It leads to this incredible scene where Nia finally quits her job. Her manager, who is obviously panicking, looks at her and says, but Nia, you're indispensable.
A phrase we all crave hearing, right? We're trained to want that security.
Right, but Nia's response is ice cold. She smiles and says, that's the problem.
That is the pivotal moment of the entire deep dive for me.
Let's talk about that. Why is being indispensable a problem?
Because if you are indispensable to a system that is broken, you are trapped.
You're trapped.
You are the load-bearing wall in a house that is on fire. Think about it. If you are indispensable, you cannot leave. You cannot grow. You cannot rest.
Wow.
Being indispensable often just means you are the most convenient place for a system to dump its dysfunction. You're the glue holding together something that actually needs to fall apart.
The load-bearing wall in a house that is on fire. That is terrifyingly accurate for a lot of people. I think we mistake imprisonment for security.
Exactly. And Nia realizes this. She realizes her value to the company was actually her cage.
By walking away, she's not just quitting a job.
No, she is refusing to carry the load anymore.
And what happens after she quits? The story says she didn't feel happy or euphoric. She felt aligned.
Aligned, not happy. And I think that distinction is vital for you to hear. We often chase happiness. If I quit this job, I'll be happy.
Sure.
But the source is saying, no, this transit isn't about happiness. It's about structural alignment.
Like setting a bone.
Exactly. Setting a bone doesn't feel good. It hurts. But it's aligned. And once it's aligned, it can actually heal. And the story notes that the city didn't collapse when everyone quit. It reconfigured.
Yeah, they talk about communal resource hubs and designing lives around cycles of energy rather than productivity quotas.
It sounds idyllic.
It does, but the story acknowledges that evolution feels like loss from the inside.
That is the core insight to take away from the narrative. Evolution feels like loss from the inside.
When a snake sheds its skin, it's not having a party.
No, it's uncomfortable. It feels like it's losing a part of itself. We look at it from the outside and say, oh, it's growing. But from the inside, it feels like death.
Or like failure.
Exactly. Quitting the job feels like failure. Ending the relationship feels like a failure. But the story argues that these things didn't fail. They just became, quote, incompatible with the species.
Which is a very hopeful way to look at societal collapse, isn't it?
It is.
It's not an end. It's an incompatibility issue. We outgrew the shell.
We outgrew the shell.
So bringing this back to our listener and the reality of tomorrow, February 3rd, we've got the theory, Uranus direct, Algol, we've got the story, the shedding. How do we synthesize this into practical advice?
I think the main takeaway is to stop fearing the discomfort. If you are feeling that tremor in the walls of your own life, in your relationship, your career, your body, don't try to suppress it.
Don't hold it all together.
Don't try to be indispensable, because if you suppress it, you risk the demon star reaction. You risk blowing up.
The detonation.
Exactly. The goal is to listen to that low, impatient voice and ask, what is the upgrade here? Not, how do I destroy this? But how do I reconfigure this so it fits who I am now?
And practically speaking, the source highlighted those specific areas. Money, clutter, body.
Right. So look at your finances. Are you spending money on a life you don't actually want anymore? Look at your home. Is it filled with versions of yourself you're afraid to outgrow? Look at your body. Are you ignoring exhaustion because you think you have to?
It's about moving from I have to I choose to.
Even if the choice is small.
Yeah.
You don't have to quit your job tomorrow like Nia. But maybe you stop volunteering for that extra project that makes you indispensable.
Maybe you set a boundary.
You start removing the load from your shoulders so you aren't the load-bearing wall anymore.
You know, it's funny. We usually think of astrology as predicting what will happen to us. Will I get lucky?
Right.
But this feels much more like a permission slip to make something happen ourselves.
That's the best kind of astrology. It's not fatalistic. It's functional. It tells you what the weather's like so you can dress appropriately.
And the weather for the next few months is windy.
It's change heavy.
So don't build a house of cards right now.
Build something flexible. Or, better yet, learn to be aerodynamic.
I love that. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap the timeline one more time for everyone.
The window opens tomorrow, February 3rd, 2026. The intensity is high immediately. That window stays open until April 25th. That is your upgrade period.
That's spring cleaning, literal and metaphorical.
Use it. Because after April 25th, Uranus moves into Gemini, and the energy shifts from material change to communication shifts.
So you want your foundation solid.
Your money, your home, your body. You want that solid before the conversation changes globally.
Clean the closet, quit the job, have the conversation, do the work now.
Or at least stop pretending the tremor isn't there.
And watch out for the shedding. If you start feeling like your old habits are foreign, don't panic.
You're not sick.
You're just upgrading. I want to leave you with a thought that came up while we were reading through the StoryScope. It's a bit of a challenge for the week ahead.
Let's hear it.
If the structures of your daily life, your job, your apartment, your bank account, your relationships, if they suddenly developed a voice today, what would they be screaming at you to stop doing?
That is a confronting question.
It is. But if you're honest with yourself, I think you already know the answer. The real question isn't what would they say? The question is, are you brave enough to realize that your high tolerance for discomfort might actually be the only thing holding you back?
And that maybe, just maybe, being indispensable is the last thing you want to be.
Something to chew on as we head into February. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you on the other side of the shift.
Take care, everyone. Don't lose your head.